Hello there, and welcome to More Movies Podcast, episode 57.
57 years.
What?
Welcome. This is the podcast where we like to talk about all the movies we've been watching, any film news, all of that kind of cinema-related stuff. My name is Greg Fisher. Next to me, sat here, is my sidekick, my compadre, my amigo, my wingman, Mr. David Roberts. How you doing, our Dave?
I'm very well, sir. Spring is here, the sun is out, it's a crisp time of year, and a great season for watching movies. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, and you do like crisps, and so do I.
I do.
Is that your favourite snack to take to the pictures?
Oh no, if you're at the cinemas, it's got to be popcorn.
I plan on making popcorn and watching Dr. Dementia.
It's got to be, isn't it? Would you like to tell people about your strange habit of popcorn before we continue? Because if you don't, I will.
Okay, so my rule is I don't like to be eating things when I'm watching the actual picture. So I'll buy the popcorn and eat it all before the film starts, pretty much. Yeah. So I like to get it all out the way during the adverts.
So Dave will basically scoff all his popcorn down during the commercials. And that's all fine, right up to that bit where, you know, this is the main event now, turn your phones off, shut the fuck up, we're going to watch the movie. And he's cramming that popcorn down. It's crazy.
Right down.
You got to see it to believe it. So this week, later on in the podcast, we're going to be talking about the fallout from the Oscars. Obviously, last week we were talking about who we wanted to win and all that sort of stuff and that kind of jazz. And this week we'll talk about what actually happened a little bit. But before that, our movie of the week is The Whale. So, The Whale 2022, directed by Darren Aronofsky. You may know him from doing such films like Requiem for a Dream, The Fountain, Black Swan, The Wrestler. Got to be one of your favourite films.
It's certainly one I really enjoy. Very good film.
Yeah, well, he's done some really quality work. Sometimes
he has.
Very dark stuff like Requiem for a Dream and one of his early films, Pi. I don't know if you've seen that, but that was quite a mind-boggler. Here we are, 2022, all these years later, and he's made the film The Whale, which was based on a play, I believe. And that's one of the things that struck me about it when we watched it. It was very much taking place in one space, so it was like a stage, you know. And it wasn't until afterwards I found out, oh, it is based on a play, but I thought it's definitely got that quality about it. On the IMDb, it just simply says, a reclusive, morbidly obese English teacher attempts to reconnect with his estranged teenage daughter. And that's it. That's all it tells us.
Yeah.
I suppose that's all you need to know, because
it is.
The amount of stuff packed into this story and into this movie, the layers involved, you wouldn't be able to fit it on the IMDb page.
No, it's a lot of pages.
Obviously, Brendan Fraser in the lead role. He has since won the Oscar for Best Actor. We'll probably talk about that again in the second half of the podcast. This was a film that we built up quite a bit of anticipation about, because one of the things about it was it didn't get released over here in the UK for quite a few months. So it was already out in the US and in other places, but we had to kind of wait for it over here, which is always a bit annoying, but at the same time, it builds anticipation, doesn't it? It's just you don't want any spoilers, that's the thing.
Absolutely not. No spoilers.
It is. It does build anticipation, but also kind of then you're getting some reaction, and it starts putting you in different places. Of especially this one was quite polarizing reviews, and you kind of like, and it starts to change that anticipation, doesn't it? It's one of them things. It's like, is it worth the wait? I think because that was the thing when I put it on, I was like, okay, this has been built up a lot in my mind.
Yeah.
Don't disappoint me.
Definitely. I think we both felt a bit like that, because we were in some ways, quite excited about it. Being big Brendan Fraser stans that we are, we love the guy, like a lot of people do. Who doesn't love Brendan Fraser? What kind of scumbag motherfucker doesn't like Brendan Fraser? George of the Jungle, Encino Man, or California Man, as it was known over here, apparently.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah. There's that Blast from the Past that you still haven't seen yet. You got to watch that. It's so funny.
What? What is it? The sky.
Scar?
Where? Up there.
Oh, I've got to watch that. Yeah, it's high on my list.
So anyway, back to The Whale. Brendan plays a character called Charlie, who is an English tutor, and he does his lessons online via like a Zoom call, and his little screen is always blacked out, so no one really knows what he looks like, and you see all these students dotted about and stuff, and that's what he does for a job. But he also has a carer called Liz who's looking in on him every day, making sure that he's got everything he needs, and because he has mobility issues, obviously, because of his size. And he's also got a daughter that he hasn't seen for years, since she was a little girl, who suddenly comes back into his life like a tornado and literally turns everything upside down, inside out, etc. And it's from, that's pretty much what happens in the first few minutes of the film. You finding this stuff out about him, and then this happens, and then it starts to all unfold. Would you say that was fair?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, the cast is 5 actors.
Yeah.
Playing the 5 characters. That is it. As you say, it takes place in kind of one place. It's a bottle movie, in that sense, in the great tradition of some of my favourite films like 12 Angry Men and stuff like that. So it is very much in that vein, and that's it. It's a really basic premise like that then, like a tornado, as you say, it snowballs upwards with all these layers and layers and layers, as we mentioned at the beginning, that then start stacking.
So we've got 5 characters. So we've obviously got Charlie, and I've just mentioned Liz, his carer, and his daughter. Her name's Ellie. But there's also Ellie's mum, who's played by Samantha Morton. She's not in the film much, but the scene that she is in is very impactful and memorable. Her name's Mary. We've also got Ty Simpkins as Thomas, and he's kind of like, it's not Jehovah's Witness, but it's that kind of thing, isn't it? He's going like for the church. He's going checking up on people and knocking on their door and trying to persuade them to be part of the church.
It's from an organisation called New Life, and it is very much a New Age Christian kind of thing, isn't it? That he's there to, and he's the character really that opens the film, isn't he? He's the first one to knock on the door.
That's right.
During a very interesting scene.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it there. We don't want to spoil too much, but we are going to talk about the film in some detail in terms of how it, what we thought about it, how it affected us. So just be warned at this stage, if you're with us and you haven't seen The Whale yet. We don't want to give away too much, but we will give away something.
The stained underpants were the giveaway.
It's like all of these side characters, there's a little bit more to them than just being his carer or his daughter or the guy from New Life. We find out quite a lot about these characters by what they do and what they say and how they interact with Charlie. And it starts to build up a picture of the past as to why he's in this state, why he's, sat like he is, grossly overweight and quite unhappy. And also he's quite, his health is suffering big time, isn't it?
Yeah. Massively so. And I think it's a credit to the really great writing here from my perspective, that they're able to take these characters which start out as just very basic structures and really create deep depth within the characters about what they are and what they're doing and why their actions are there, just through dialogue, really, and what's happening in that flat. And they do a really great job of it. This is one of the most emotional dramas I have watched in such a long time. The performance from Brendan Fraser in this film, there's a reason why everyone was saying he should win the Oscar. There's a reason why there's been so much acclaim. It truly is a magnificent performance that, along with the great writing of it, I think, but it really hits you in here. I was crying my eyes out. I was bawling. It was so powerful. And I think what's more, a lot of people have talked about how fantastic the makeup is and the kind of the physical acting from Brendan. He manages to maneuver in such a believable way and stuff. And it's great. He has likened it in interviews to mime and stuff. And it's like, that is all fantastic. But more for me is acting through his eyes, through his facial expressions, through those little touches, is really what brought home the deepness of the character and took it to that extra level. I think if you had a lesser actor in that role, this film would not work. It's all about that performance, really.
Yeah.
And it is something truly special.
Absolutely. I mean, when you watched it before me, within the week, we watched it, both of us, but you watched it a few days before. And I know how much you've been looking forward to it. And you said to me, like what you've just said, it made you cry, basically, And let me just tell you, if you're watching or listening to this, Dave is not the kind of person that easily cry over anything. So that's saying something. That made me think, okay, all right, there's definitely something to this film. First of all, it was like, great, it's not a disappointment. Like you said at the start, we were worried, is it going to disappoint us? So I thought, no, it's not going to. But to be quite honest, I thought to myself, well, it's made Dave cry, but I don't think it's going to make me cry. I'm not going to cry. Like, I'm a big, tough guy. I'm not crying at this. And then I put it on, and after, about half an hour into it, I could feel that emotion. I could feel myself getting a little bit choked up, getting a little bit welled up about it.
Yeah.
And that's how much it pulls you in. If you're willing to sit down with this film and just be open and say, right, what have you got for me? Let's be open. Let's just see what it is. Then it's gonna affect you on a certain level for different reasons. Like I say, there's so many sort of layers to it. So let's talk about that a bit. Let's talk about some of these themes that go on, because obviously for people who haven't seen it or just know a little bit about it, they're going to think, oh, it's about a big fat guy and his problems with his family, maybe, or something like that, or they don't know exactly what's going on. But it's not about that, really. It's about relationships. That's, for me, what it was about.
Yeah,
you go on. I can tell you want to say.
Yeah, it's definitely about relationships, in its many forms. Whether that's obviously a key one in there is parental relationships, which is in there, but also about love and partners and friends and family.
Yeah.
It's all laid into there. It's about depression and what that can do to someone. It's about addiction. And in this case, that is food, And I thought that's an interesting one, because we've had films about addiction for drugs. We've, Requiem for a Dream, example, Darren Aronofsky. We've got films about addiction to things like alcohol and all kinds of things like that. I think it's rare to see a film that tackles a food addiction or a problem with food, because there's some films that have tackled things like anorexia, but to tackle food addiction in terms of someone who is just eating themselves to death. Because of depression, I think it's a really unique tale that you don't see much of, really.
No.
And I've seen people criticizing the film because of this, and it's food porn or making it out to be a circus show or something like that. And I think that is far from what it is doing. It is doing something about showing you reality. This is what some people end up like.
Yeah.
And then you get onto the other layers of the film where we're talking about religious allegories. We're talking about we get into talks about ethics and what is right and wrong. We touch on bits of the rights and wrongs of the American healthcare system. We're talking about morality. Queerness is a layer in there. And it all jumps. The whale as a title is interesting because obviously one of the big things running through is a essay about Moby Dick, and that becomes a piece that kind of links into all parts of the story.
Yeah.
But then further with like these religious kind of themes going on, you start thinking about like Jonah and the whale, and the fact he's trapped, like Jonah is trapped in the whale, he's trapped in his own flat, and you start getting so many points linking off, and as you say, they build up throughout the film that to a crescendo.
Yeah, oh yeah, very much.
And it's very impressive.
Oh, it is. Like I said to you, after half an hour, I could start to feel the emotion kicking in. And for me, it was started where you got this character, Liz, who's looking after him. She's looking in on him. And at first, she just appears to be like, the nominated carer. For whatever reason, she's the one that comes in, checks he's got everything he needs. She's looking after him. She's obviously friendly with him and guards him quite closely. But the more of their relationship you see, the more you kind of see this kind of, she's almost abusive herself in how she dominates him, and how she's almost got this built up anger with him. And then when it's revealed why, that was kind of like, wow. And, she's been quite nasty to him in some ways. She's like prodding him and hitting him and telling him off. And he, there was one point and he turns around to her and he says, I'm sorry. And I thought to myself, don't be sorry. It's not your fault, mate. Fucking hell. And that's what got me going, because I thought, this guy's just taking it. He's just taking all this abuse and he's taking all this shit. Because the other main sort of, if it was an antagonist in the film, is his daughter, played by Sadie Sink. She plays Ellie. Now, this, for me, was the unbelievable standout performance other than Fraser in the film, because this character of the daughter, it just blows your mind how, you get all these Marvel films like Thanos and people like this and all these evil characters. They got nothing on this girl. This girl is like Machiavellian on a certain level, because, it's revealed to us that he left the family home, her and the mom, Samantha Morton, when she was only 8 years old. And it's basically almost 10 years, isn't it? She's like nearly 18 when she comes back into his life. And like I say, she comes back in like a tornado, because she is ruthless with him. She got, absolutely nothing good to say to him, nothing, good at all. And it seems like she's just out for his money. Yeah. And it's revealed to us that he's been saving all this money up all this time because he just wants to give it to his daughter when she's old enough. But it's also illustrated that he could have spent this money on healthcare, which would have helped him to get better. Yeah. So there's another element to his own sort of, self-destruction. And it starts to get sticky, doesn't it, between the characters? It
does. It breaks open a whole thing. And I think that's the scene for me, the scene where Samantha Morton comes in, and that was my favourite performance, although it's one scene.
She's brilliant, mate. She's brilliant.
It's absolutely amazing. And that scene takes you on such a roller coaster in such a short period of time. Yeah, that it's truly remarkable section of cinema. It's pick out a section of a film and go, yeah, that's one, and it's like, wow, it's got so much stuff going on, and it's interesting because I mentioned to you after I watched it that I can't remember feeling so attached to a character like Charlie in a film. For me, having my inner monologue going, please don't eat that. Please go and get help. Please go and, shouting in my head at him to stop and save himself, knowing what the better thing to do was. But it's interesting, he has such self-loathing, and yet he cares more about the other people around him than he cares for himself.
He's the most human character in there. He's so loving. It's like, that's why it was great they chose Brendan Fraser, because I think that's the kind of energy he exudes, this very, always kind of like, got time for people. He's kind of happy-go-lucky. He also has a look in his eyes that has been through trials in his life. And I'm talking about the actor now, not the character. Yeah. He looks like he's been through it, but he always sort of does his best, and he's got time for people, and he just seems like everybody wants to be his best friend. It's like he's such a lovely guy. And that's why he was so perfectly cast as Charlie, because of what you just said. He's the most human character. He cares about the world. He's cultured, but he's made this huge mistake of this thing to leave his family is the thing that, like you said, has caused his depression, caused his downfall, because ultimately, because, he left the family for someone else and that person has died. Spoiler. Yeah. But that's what's really, ruined his life. The whole choice to do it, because all of these things that he's paying for, or the repercussions that we see in the film, are all because of that. It's all come from that decision. But just before I let you in again, that to say about Samantha Morton, she is only in that one scene, and it's an incredible scene, and she is amazing. And it was the same. I watched that film, She Said, about a month ago, and she's only in one scene in that. But again, it's one of those scenes that's like, Samantha Morton, one of our greatest actors. She is amazing. I wish she got more work. She's such a fantastic actor that, you know, I just can't say enough good things about her. She's amazing.
She is amazing. It's truly incredible. I wish we'd get more work as well. It's one of them shames. I think with Charlie, it's and Brendan Fraser bringing to it, it's sincerity.
Yeah,
and he's so open and gentle in the performance that you go, you know, and you're with him all the way, and it's so powerful.
It's like the only time he does get angry, he gets angry at himself. Yes. And that's where the abuse comes in with the food and that. And
yeah, especially the moment, we'll just say pizza delivery, and you go, but, you know, there's a great allegory in the film of the birds, and that kind of is the metaphor in the film for this, that there's these birds on the windowsill outside of the apartment, and he's always a plate of food feeding them, and it's kind of a metaphor for him caring more about the birds and feeding them fruit and something good and taking care of them than he gives a shit about himself.
Yeah.
And that's the carries throughout it and all the writing, and you're just like, oh man.
Exactly. It's like he wants to punish himself for the decisions he's made and the choices that he's made, and he's also deeply saddened by the loss of his true love in life, you know, but also that compounded by the fact that he's lost touch with his daughter, who he loves more than anything as well, as a result of that. So it's kind of like he gambled on something and lost all, you know, he lost everything in his worldview.
Yeah.
And that's why he's, you know, eating himself to death. And, man, it gets, you know, that, like I said, that first scene where I started to get emotionally attached to it was where Liz was kind of like hitting on him, and then the daughter gets nastier and nastier and nastier, and you don't have any empathy for her at all, even though you should. She's just been a child that's been abandoned, in a sense, lost her father. And part of that Samantha Morton's character's fault as well. The mother has kind of been so scorned by being left by him that she's used the daughter as a sort of pawn in it all. And that happens a lot, you know, with families where one or the other partner is so injured, they use the children as this kind of shield, or as this bargaining chip, which is really bad especially for the children. So even though you know all that, she's so conniving and everything, and so nasty. I started to think of her as this kind of really dark antagonist, you know, and I thought, God, you know, but even that gets resolved by the end, and that's where the real punch comes in at the end, I found.
It does, yeah. Her almost final line at the door at the end.
Ooh.
Oh, it gets you.
It does.
It's a moment that literally reaches in and grabs your heart, and you're just like, because it's truth, and it's honesty, and it's
undeniable
real.
Emotion. Whereas, you know, people are not as in touch with their emotions as they could be sometimes, and there's reasons for that, and that's part of this film as well. You know, that people put up barriers and shields and protect themselves from the pain. Basically, when we talk about emotion, a lot of the time we're talking about very, very painful issues.
Yeah,
and you know, if you've ever lost anyone, or if you've ever had any of these kind of family troubles, or any of these issues that are touched upon in this film, if you're affected by any of them, this film's going to get to you. Yeah. But, you know, it sounds a bit depressing. It sounds a bit like, oh, guys, you know, geez, what a depressing film. But it's not. I found it as sort of life-affirming.
Yeah, I think it's... in some ways, of course, they're depressing topics, but it's dealt with in such a way that's kind of catharsis. It's really like, okay, it's reassuring you really about this is what life really is, you know,
what it's like.
and I think you kind of lean into all these characters and associate with them so much that it becomes a pleasant experience, even through the sadness. So yeah, what a remarkable film.
I think so. I think to say any more about it, really, any details would kind of definitely spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. So all I can say is really, if you love a good emotional film, do go and watch this film and come back and let us know what you thought of it in the comments or something. But I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. If there's anything else we could talk about here, is that apart from Brendan Fraser being nominated and then eventually winning the Best Actor Oscar, it was kind of snubbed. There was no... It did win Best Hair and Makeup, which it damn well should have, because his makeup for the film was incredible on a technical level, really brilliant. So to win in a technical category, great. But Aronofsky wasn't nominated. The film itself wasn't nominated as Best Film.
I think
it's kind of been snubbed, and a lot of people, like you said before, have kind of criticised it or dismissed it, and that just made me think, oh, that's kind of sad. Sad that we live in a world where
I think some of the criticism has been ridiculous for this film, and most of it I completely disagree with. I get people might not enjoy the film. Fine, that's fine on that kind of level. I think some people are not enjoying it because there's an ego element. They're not letting themselves into the film.
Well, exactly.
With a film like this, you've got to let yourself in.
Yeah.
There's been the criticisms about the fat suit, which I find ridiculous myself. People saying, "Oh, you should have hired, an obese person to play them." Now, let's get one thing straight: a 600-pound obese man could not be doing the work of acting on a film like this without significant risk to their health, if you could even find an actor who was that size, without it being a risk to their health and a risk to the project, and then you've got to also counter in that you want a good actor. You can't just pick anyone. You need someone who is good at acting. So it's ridiculous. And if you'd have got someone who wasn't £600, say it was a £300 person, it wouldn't work. That's not the story of the film. It's got to be someone on this extreme level. So, and at the end of the day, as we've talked about before, it's acting. That's the point.
Yeah.
So I find it a ridiculous element. And I think Brendan Fraser was a great choice because he's not been the slimmest person in recent years. If you look at him in something like Doom Patrol, he's put on significant weight. He put on weight for the role. So he kind of knows some of this as well.
Yeah.
So I think that element's ridiculous. And I've seen people saying it's fat phobic because of the content of the film. I think that's ridiculous. We've talked about how it's an emotional and caring story that it's telling about something that's true and real. And I think people are just scared of the truth sometimes. And that's what that comes down to. And I think the other thing, I've seen people moaning about the fact, we talked at the beginning about it's very theatrical. It's based on a stage play. And I think that criticism is ridiculous. Well, people going, oh, it's very stagey. It's very theatrical. Well, so are lots of films.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
I think that's supposed to be. Cinema is based on theatre.
Exactly. And it's still cinematic.
Brilliant. I thought the cinematography and everything and the direction was excellent, considering it all takes place in his little house there. It was brilliant, and there's some fantastic stuff in there. It wasn't gratuitous. It never draws attention to itself. It does the job perfectly. And besides all that, even if they did it in a very basic way, it wouldn't matter, because this is a film about the characters. Because, the further we get into it, the less, it's still about Charlie and all the people, but you find out more about the daughter, you find out more about Thomas, and you find out more about Liz, and you get to sort of start to discover more about their characters, and that just heightens everything, because that's what expands the web and makes it all this kind of crazy sort of mess of relationships that are happening. And if you ask me, if you want something from cinema as a kind of, every now and then you watch a film, like you mentioned before, 12 Angry Men, what a film. The first time you see it, you get affected by it because of the themes, because of what it covers, because of the way it's done, etc. The Whale is one of those films, I think, but like I say, I think I personally said enough about it. I would love people to watch it, especially the kind of people that watch us and and, watch the same sort of movies as we do, I think, there'll be a lot of people there. If they haven't seen it yet, you'll get a lot out of this film, one way or another.
Absolutely agree. Just, go watch it. It's amazing.
So there we go. We've had the Oscars. The 95th Academy Awards happened just a few days ago. We're on Saturday today. It happened last Sunday night into Monday, over here in the UK anyway. I watched the whole show. Love it. I absolutely love it. And this year, I'll start by saying I felt like it was back to form, because the last few years we've had, we had the pandemic Oscars, which was kind of like it took place in some garden centre. And then last year it was a slightly different setup. They had that open plan again. Then we had the infamous slap happen and all that, disgraceful kind of thing happen. This year, it's like they said, right, fuck this. We'll get all the categories back in for one thing. It was like 23 categories over the course of the night. Because, Kimmel himself, Jimmy Kimmel, who's a presenter, he said, you asked for the categories to be put back in. The Academy has listened. We've put them back in. Great. Also, the whole format of the stage there and everything, it was like back to form. And, with some of these things, sometimes they try and modernize them and say, come on, we're moving forward. But I think with something like the Oscars, it's like they've learned their lesson to say, don't mess with a good thing, especially after what happened last year. So the first thing about it, I thought it was a great show like that. I enjoyed that element to it. Kimmel did a great job. Lots of funnies in there, as per, obviously a few references to the Will Smith thing and everything. How could you not acknowledge it in humor?
Exactly.
But thank God nothing like that happened. There was no fuck ups with, reading out the wrong winners and all this kind of crap that's happened in the last few years. It was kind of a solid show again. And I think they wanted to do that. I think their credibility was waning a little bit because of all of the things that's happened in the last few years. So it was back to form as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it was good. I've only watched it. I've skimmed through it after the fact, but I think Kimmel did a great job. There's some great singers in there. I loved the line, about Babylon losing $100 million. There was a very pointed joke about Ozempic drugs in there, which was quite funny. But also the great moment that Jenny the donkey was brought on stage from the match. I
got to admit, that's the only bit for me. I just thought, don't do that. Don't bring a donkey out. I felt sorry for the poor thing. It looked a bit like, oh.
I was hoping it would do a poo on stage like at Blackpool Beach. But
poo all over Jimmy Kimmel's trousers. That would have been good. But yeah, great show. And knuckling down to the winners, you and I, if you watch this or listen to us regularly, you'll know how much we thought of Everything Everywhere All at Once. And, Ke Huy Quan won Best Supporting Actor. There we go. That was our choice. That's who we wanted to win. Fantastic that came in straight away. Then you had Jamie Lee Curtis won in Best Supporting Actress. Which is great because it's still another win for that film. But I think I would have chose Stephanie Hsu over her, but only because that character in the film, she carried that film in a lot of ways as well. It was a great character.
I wanted her to win as well, but I wasn't angry that Jamie Lee Curtis won, because in a way it's like also Jamie Lee Curtis has been around so long, she's such a legend, and the surprise on her face when it was called was something to behold, which I really loved.
Yeah. But that was another result for our favourite film there, which was great.
It won Best Original Screenplay as well.
Absolutely.
It won Best Film Editing for Paul Rogers, which is
did you see that guy's acceptance speech?
It was brilliant, wasn't it?
It was. I thought, after he walked off stage, I was like, what a cool dude. What an absolutely cool dude.
I love it as well because what's exciting about the editing in this film is obviously it's a brilliant edit of a film. But if you see any of there's some behind the scene clips and interviews and screenshots of what it was like, he edited it in Premiere Pro, which if anyone who's done editing is it's interesting. It's not been done using some more old school editing techniques, or Avid or something like that. It's a very modern way of editing. He edited at home on his computer during lockdown. and of a messy timeline and everything. And it was like, yes, this is like
we can
going
relate to
forward.
that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So it was nice for it to see that happening.
Also won Best Directors for the Daniels. Well done, guys. Absolutely brilliant. And Best Film, Best Picture.
And Best Actress.
Of course, how could I forget? Best Actress for Michelle Yeoh, which is absolutely brilliant as well. So glad she did. Michelle Yeoh was amazing in that film as well.
Incredible.
She's just amazing in it. So I think that worked out well in terms of what we wanted to see.
Yes.
All Quiet on the Western Front. That won quite a lot of stuff as well. There was a point early on where it was starting to pick up momentum. It won about 4 in a row or something like that. And I was like, wow, is this film going to sweep? Because, it was starting to win. It won Best Score. It won Best International Picture. I think Best Sound Design.
It's Best Production Design.
Sorry, Production Design. Thank you.
And Best Cinematography.
It's no surprise that a film that's got such a strong anti-war message is picking up accolades. I mean, not to take away from it, it is incredibly well done. It's a fantastic film.
Yeah, it's a brilliant film. I'm glad it won what it won. I mean, Best International Feature is deserving. As you know, I didn't really want it to win Best Picture because I wanted everyone wants to win. Yeah. So it was nice to give it kind of the secondary award for that. And I'm very glad it won cinematography because the most standout thing to me was how interesting the cinematography in that film was, how beautiful it was, because it did a really interesting job of contrasting like the beauty of the world. You had these shots, these visuals they were almost like desktop wallpapers or screensavers. They were just stunning shots of like forests and mountains and stuff like that. And then you'd cut into the trenches and stuff, and it's this brown, horrible, visceral image, which was Beauty and the Ugly kind of thing.
Heaven and Hell.
Yeah, and it really was stunning, and obviously it won production design and it won score. Again, really well deserved because the music in it was really something else. These kind of heavy guitar-driven rock kind of beats that were really bassy at the low level, which made you feel uneasy. And the production design, when in terms of what it looked like, the scale and stuff was, so a really great film. So it is one to go and recommend for people to go watch because it was well deserving of its awards.
And as we've just been talking about The Whale, Brendan Fraser, that was the big one, really. That was the one was like, please, 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 please let him win. Because for me, I know I said it won Best Hair and Makeup as well, which is great. But, we wanted Brendan to win this. We wanted it more than anything else, after Ki Kwan winning as well, and then both being in Encino Man together, they're both sort of like got a lot in common there that, it was lovely to see those two guys pick it up, So that was the punch the air moment for me. I was like, yes, he's won.
It was.
He's won, goddammit.
It was so happy. His speech was great, and he seemed so happy afterwards. And seeing all them shots afterwards of Ki Kwan and Brendan together with their trophies, with Ki Kwan running up to Harrison Ford on the stage with the trophies because he was presenting Best Picture. These kind of shots and moments for this award season have been like, it's so reassuring. It's not all bad, No. And it's so lovely to see.
Well,
deserving.
You were worried that Austin Butler might win.
Yeah, I had this horrible sinking feeling. Austin Butler's performance in Elvis was good. I'm not saying it was a bad performance or anything, but to me, it wasn't on the level. It wasn't superb. I'm also getting a bit sick of him walking around still doing the Elvis accent. It's getting a bit weird at this point. But because he won, was it the BAFTA? I think he won, and a few others.
He's won a few,
and he's picked up, and I was getting a sinking feeling. Going, are they going to go for him? Is that what they're going to go for? Because of some of the controversy surrounding The Whale as well. I was thinking, and I don't think I'd enjoyed that at all because I'm not his biggest fan. Let's say that.
Okay. Well, they didn't win any. Elvis didn't win. Of all the categories it was nominated for, it didn't win. Not a one. But, you know, you got Everything Everywhere All at Once winning 7.
7 awards.
All Quiet on the Western Front won 4. Was it 4?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Oscars gobbled up by just 2 movies there. It left things like, Avatar won for Best Visual Effects. That's one we still haven't seen yet, but...
Avatar, Way of Water!
Anyone who watches Mark Commode will get that reference. But yeah...
It deserved visual effects. If it was to get anything, you know, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Nice that you got something. I still haven't seen it. Still don't really want to. There was a little bit of outrage that Angela Bassett didn't win for her part in for supporting actress in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Still haven't seen that, so can't comment on it. But for the fact that people seem to be a little bit outraged about it, it made me want to see the film. I thought, well, I love Angela Bassett. I've got to see what all this fuss is about. You know, she's going to have to be like fantastic performance to be that sort of supported for a Marvel movie. You know, so
well, this is the thing, because it
made me want to see it.
Yeah, I think because the fact it's a Marvel movie is one of the things, and it's it does make you wonder. But I wonder if a lot of the kind of outrage comes from the Marvel mega fan kind of side of it all. So I don't know. I mean, it won costume design, Black Panther. So it got something.
A great one. We had Sarah Polley won for best adapted screenplay for Women Talking. I watched this film last week. It's dense. It's thick and heavy. It's another one that's very much like a theatrical production. It doesn't all take place in one setting, but most of it does. Like it says on the tin, Women Talking. There's a hell of a lot of that. Claire Foy, I thought, was brilliant in it. She plays a very strong, powerful character. A really standout performance from her. They were all good in it. You got Frances McDormand and Jessie Buckley and Ben Whishaw, who plays Q, and more notably the voice of Paddington. He was in it, and he's really great as well. Top Gun Maverick.
Best sound.
They got something.
Which
is a good thing, I think.
I was surprised it was best sound, to be honest. I was like, that was a bit like, I mean, fair enough. It's good sound, but most of the films have good sound, to be honest, these days. But I was a bit like, of all of them, I thought it would have been something else, but maybe visual effects or production design or something. I don't know. But it picked up the best sound and it got something. So at least it didn't win best picture, But
no, that would have been something.
Yeah.
But there we go, Dave. I think that's another year of Academy Fun and Games and another podcast.
It is another award season over. Another year to wait till the next year's big event.
Well, we got some good stuff coming up this year. I mean, we got blockbusters like Indiana Jones is on its way, the 5th Indiana Jones film. Harrison Ford returning once more.
It's gonna be great.
It's got to be great, hasn't it? I'd seen the trailer and I thought, okay, I'm ready for this. They've done a bit of de-aging, the deep fake stuff.
And it looks impressive.
It does look good, yeah. Whether it holds for sections of the film, we'll have to see, because, we've watched stuff like The Mandalorian and then bringing back a young Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, and both sort of looked at it like, what? The Force is not strong with this one.
Yeah, and we've got like Oppenheimer coming up, Christopher Nolan. That's going to be really exciting.
That definitely is. I'm really looking forward to that film. It looks incredible.
And this year is actually going to be the year of the biopics, did you know? We've got Oppenheimer. Yeah. We've got Napoleon.
Oh, yeah, with Joaquin Phoenix. Ridley Scott, is it? Is directing that one?
I believe so, yeah. There's a film about the maker of the BlackBerry phones coming out. There's a film about the early years of Atari coming out, about the founders of that.
I'll be interested in that.
There's quite a few. There's a whole bunch of biopics coming up this year.
Interesting.
One about George Foreman, I believe.
Okay. Is that about him inventing that grill?
Maybe it's about the grill, yeah. I hope it is.
That'd be an interesting perspective, wouldn't it? You expect a boxing movie and it's like, no, it's about home cooking appliances.
Cooking burgers.
It was a revolution.
The best burgers I've ever had.
Well, yeah.
And then Hulk Hogan's outside moaning that it wasn't named after him.
Yeah. You had to say it, didn't you? You had to squeeze him in.
I had to.
If you directed an episode of The Twilight Zone, it would star Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, why not?
No doubt. But yeah, a great year of cinema ahead. We look forward to covering it. And I think that's all we got to say this week. So, let's leave it there. So that just leaves us enough time to tell people about what we've been up to elsewhere on the internet. We've got a couple of videos go out on our YouTube channel. We've got our top 5 Quentin Tarantino films. If you're a fan of the Wunderkind Tarantino, then check out what our top 5 was. It's just been announced this week. He is working on his 10th and supposedly final film, which is titled The Film Critic. So that's going to be interesting. Probably won't be out for a year or two, but it's exciting to know that he's working on it.
That's it.
We also have a Film in 5 review, first one in a while, for the movie The Gambler, starring James Caan, 70s movie. Fantastic film. So check out that review when you've got time. All the links are in the description below.
Really great review there. And if you want to listen to us in audio-only format, you want to check us out on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the other big podcast platform providers, we are on there. Go check us out. All the information is in the description down below.
If you'd like to support us, you can support us over at buymeacoffee.com or on Patreon. I think we're done. We're definitely done now. I've already said we're done a few times, but we're done now.
All wrapped up, sir.
Yeah, so please join us again next time. Thanks very much for joining us this time. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought. And as always, until next time, keep watching more movies.
That's it for this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And remember to like, share and subscribe right here on YouTube. For more film reviews and articles, check out our website, moremovies.co.uk. And join us on social media at More Movies For You. That's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all across the board. You know the score. If you enjoy what we do, please consider supporting us at buymeacoffee.com or join us on one of our packages on Patreon. The links are in the description down below. And for more filmtastic content, click one of the buttons on screen now.